Esto es clicar. Okay.
Thank you very much for this warm introduction, and good morning, everyone. I can imagine that a lot of people are still missing their first morning coffee, so thank you very much for being here and having the energy to talk about the problem and a challenge that I wanted to discuss with you today, which is how to make your round A work. I'm a legal advisor, and I meet with a lot of startups, scale-ups, and investors during different investment processes. And what I do is I help them close the investment deals. But to be honest, closing of the deal seems to be the easiest part of the entire process. What is the most difficult and what raises the most challenges is actually how to open the discussion about the deal. And this is what I wanted to talk about with you today. What is the problem and how to bridge the gap between the expectations of investors and scale-ups regarding the round A investment? If you're thinking about raising your round A, you might be wondering what kind of challenges or what kind of predictions you can expect from 2022. And this might be interesting for you because there are some numbers that can help us understand how the investment processes in the upcoming, in this year are going to look like. First, the number, 3.6 billion Polish zloty. This is the amount of the investment that has been invested into Polish scale-ups last year. This might be quite optimistic. If you're thinking about round A, then you might think, okay, this is what has been happening. This is going to happen this year as well. And of course, our expectations are similar. There's going to be money on the market. So it seems that focusing on your round A now might be a good idea because there is going to be funds available to you. Another good information is that 50% of that capital last year was gained from foreign investors. This means that we can expect exposure to the foreign capital this year as well, and it always has a positive impact on the processes. So again, as a scale-up, you might feel quite optimistic that not only you are going to gain investors, but they are going to be also foreign investors, so proposing different types of deals and different types of processes. However, what might be interesting is for you to learn that last year, 80% of that capital was not raised by the majority of startups, but actually by top 15 of enterprises in Poland. That is not so optimistic. This means that the majority of the capital available distributed among the tigers, the lions, those who are raising their round B, round C, that are planning to enter the public market. So what is left for the smaller enterprises are the deals whose value is around 1 million Polish zloty. This is more or less 200 euro at this moment. Not so optimistic. So it already shows us that the round A, the round that you are planning to raise much more between 2 to 5 or 10 million euro, it's not that easy to gain in Poland, even though the capital is there and the interest is there and the investors are there. What also is important, especially if you're a Polish scale-up or a scale-up that is using the publicly available funds, in 2 next years, some of those funds will not be available to you because the public programs that we have are going to expire, and those programs were used mostly to finance seed and round A investments. So an interesting element to take into account when you're thinking about round A is that you will actually have to skip those kind of funds and focus on the private money, which, as we saw, at this moment is not so easily available if you're a smaller company. And of course, the last, but one of the biggest uncertainties of the future, the effects of war in Ukraine. This is also something that might affect the interest and the flow of investors and investment capital into scale-ups and how the round A's are going to be raised. So when you think about that, you can already see that the raising of this round A is a challenge because it does not happen as easily and as often as we would like. The question is why? What is happening? What is the problem? And this is what we hear from the investors who are considering investing into a scale-up. Firstly, the easy answers. The scale-up does not have a sufficient product market fit of their solution. If you're talking with your investors, if you're talking with your customers, if you hear that, for sure you are reconsidering or thinking about what to do. But this aspect is something that will always stop the investment process, because there is no way forward if your company is not ready to actually fit the market and provide the customers what they need. Too early. A lot of startups will hear that, and this is really frustrating. I mean, you have your great project, great opportunity, you're really entering the market, but they are still telling you that this is not time for you to raise round A. If we think about it, sometimes it's a problem of scalability and mistaking the seed part of the investment with the round A investment. Because if you're still developing your product, if you're not generating that much revenue, but focusing on the R&D process, this is too early for you for round A. Round A has its own perks. Investors who are investing on that level are usually expecting to see revenue and cash flow generated by the company. So if you're not there, this is going to be too early, and this is the answer that you will hear. Disorder in the company. We all know that running an enterprise is sometimes a chaotic process. This is how business is made. Sometimes if investors see just too much chaos, they will step back. So another reason for you to hear no on this stage is actually because they do not see enough order, enough teamwork in the company, and that's why they are not motivated to invest. Scalability, this is something that I think we're going to talk about through entire meeting here. If the process is scalable, then definitely it's more attractive. If it's not, then again, round A is not yet there for you. You're still on the easier stage when you should focus on checking your concept, checking if your product actually matches the market, and if this can be repeated and sold over and over again in a scalable manner. Sometimes there have been some problems at the very beginning of your process. If you have some passive investors from seed stage who are not really engaged in the company, but they're just sitting there on your shares, doing nothing but being some kind of a break for your business, this might also scare away the capital that should flow during the round A process. On faulty cap table, this is also a connected issue. This is not only about the passive investors, but sometimes the founders, the employees of the company who have not divided the shares in a good manner are not that attractive for the round A process, because the round A has its own perks. It works in a certain way. There are certain expectations from investors, what they are going to achieve, how much equity they are going to acquire. And if you are not prepared for that from the very beginning, then you might just not be ready for round A. Non-recurring monetization model, this is very related to scalability as well. So again, if you're able to sell over and over, then this might be a good moment for round A. If you're not there, this is not going to work that well. Not generating revenue. Every business wants to generate revenue, and every business needs to firstly pay costs, and then they will generate the income. Investors during round A will check that. This is what they will expect. They will need to see that your business is actually able to maintain a stable cash flow. So if you're not yet there, then what I would suggest is still look for seed funding instead of round A investors. Sometimes you will say that you are not ready for the round A because this round is just not big enough. You know your business, you know how much you need to scale, and what the investors are proposing is not enough. This might be due to geographical reasons, this might be due to the profile of an investor. But sometimes too small round A might be the same type of deal breaker as would be the lack of this round. The effective cost model, this is also something that a lot of scale-ups have to think about. Of course, you are always paying a lot for the purpose of developing your business, but you have to have your costs under control and you have to know where the money is going. Because if this goes out of your hands, then again, this stops being interesting for the people who want to invest in your business. And last stage, the lack of public funds. As I mentioned, especially in Poland, we are going to see the outflow of the public funds for that stages. So this might also be a showstopper for you and a challenge to actually raise the round A. So if you're somewhere there, what you're going to most definitely hear from your investors is a no, a short showstopper, and in such case, the thing that you should consider is the groundwork on those issues, because those are not the issues that will be easily overlooked. And it's very hard to bridge this gap between a scale-up and an investor if you are dealing with one of these problems. But of course, life would be very easy if we saw it going forward that way. But there are also different gaps that we see, and they are much less tangible than those that you just saw a second ago. Here are some quotes from investors and scale-ups that I had the chance to talk with that related to why they said no during round A. For example, the problem one of our projects faced, it was an automotive project that wanted to develop technology, is that their product is too big to scale up in Poland. The general understanding is that if they want to reach their targeted goal, they have to go abroad, and this is where they have to find funding. So the product market fit was there. There was scalability. The team was great. The revenue model was okay. Just the region was not good enough. And this is not that easy to compensate, because this is not this grand type of work that you have to do. This is a less tangible issue. So this also can be a challenge and a gap when talking about scale-ups and investors on round A. The other issue, which is not that easy to measure, but also that we heard when investors said no, is that everything was great with the project, just the team was not experienced enough. And this might seem quite tricky, because if you are a scale-up, of course, you are just developing your plan, you're learning as you speak. But the problem for that particular project, again, a deep tech company that we had a chance to work with, was that they were not believing that the team there has enough experience and enough strength to actually scale up. So great ideas, great work on the seed level, but not enough energy to go further. And then a common discussion that we often hear is about the control that the investors want to have over the project, whether this is a control that is given to them or the ones that the company wants to keep. Again, very hard to measure, very hard to standardize, but also can lead to having this big gap between your interests and interests of your prospective investors. So I don't want to discourage you, because these are just the issues that we see. But what I want to say is that these kind of problems are more tricky to address, because they're not ready-made solutions for those. But there are also positive notes to that element, because these elements can be overcome in a more creative way that is not so obvious in the very beginning, but actually can lead you to bridging this gap. So if we want to close the distance between the scale-up and the investors, what should we consider? First, there is a really cool solution for you to try and overcome the cash flow and revenue related issues, which is a revenue-based financing. And I know that there are actually here during this event and experts in that, so this is something really worth to explore. A revenue-based financing is some kind of bridge financing model that helps you increase your revenue and show your investors that you are actually ready to scale up because you gain cash and you have sustainable cash flow. This model is an alternative model of investment. It's based on the revenue that you generate, and it shows your business partners that actually there is something there worth sharing and worth scaling. So a very nice opportunity. If you're looking for round A but you are not yet there, think about this solution because it might help you bridge this gap. Another, of course, the typical bridge financing opportunities. You do not always need to look for equity investment. There are a lot of other opportunities out there. Convertible notes or safe notes, those allow you to gain capital but not share equity at the same moment. And in such a way, you might build your business and only there give your investors the value that they are looking for. This is getting more and more popular. I know that in CEE region, there are still some reservations regarding this kind of investment, but it really does work in practice, and it helps you establish the value of your company for investors for the future. So everyone feels a little bit more safe. Exposure to foreign investors, that's the other aspect that is really worth exploring. Consider if you want to be in one place, maybe you want to be and have a presence in different parts of the world. We see a surge to Americas, to the United States right now. It's not that difficult for you as a scale-up to actually establish a corporate presence there. And just to refer to one of the problems that we had seen before, in one of our cases, this helped to raise the round A. A company moved to the US, opened up to US-based investors, and suddenly the gap was bridged because this is where their main market and focus was on. And last but not least, consider expanding your team. Your team might need some enhancement for the scale-up part, and it might be attractive to interest a manager and investor in one person. Managers also like to invest. They do invest in businesses that they believe in, and they might be an amazing addition to your team. And having this kind of strength, they might also help to bridge this gap of lack of experience, of lack of exposure to bigger markets. So a lot of creative ways out there. This is not a round A work. This is how you can get closer to it and how you can approach the investors with a new set of cards, let's say. So you can show them that those issues that they see, even if they are tangible or intangible, are possible to bridge. And hopefully, when you are there, the round A would actually happen and you will be able to close this gap. And remembering, last but not least, that this is not the end, and all the hard work that you spend on exploring all those difficult issues will just open you up for the second round of investment or third one or wherever you wish to go. And I wish all of you that this is definitely the scenario that we'll be able to live through. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you all during the event if you want to chat or have a coffee. Thank you.
Don't leave just yet. Thank you so much, Paulina. Thank you. I wanted to remind you that we actually will see Paulina at 4 p.m. today as well.
That's right.
In a panel discussion here on the Garage Day as well. So you're going to have a chance to hear what she has to say once again. And of course, look for Paulina.